friends, welcome to the workshop, 3 Keys to Finding Peace in a Busy Season. This is going to be a kind of untraditional style workshop for me. Many times that I have done these sorts of things in the past, I had, PowerPoint slides to go with it, and the lighting was all perfect, and my house was empty and noise-free to be making these videos. Right now I've got a baby napping, a toddler having some showtime, and my older 2 are at their once a week drop-off co-op. So I'm going to make these very, very short because I have to, because I'm pressed for time, but also because I think it's going to be greatly beneficial to you to know that you're not watching a 2-hour video each of these 3 days of the workshop. You are literally seeing that okay, this is bite-sized, this is doable, this is manageable. I'm really just praying for God to make fishes and loaves of my efforts here, and to make fishes and loaves of what it is that I have to say, and to multiply that, and to let it just really strike a chord with you, and having an open heart for you to accept the message however it is meant to pertain to you in your current season of life. So if you're brand spanking new, you're coming across this on YouTube or wherever, hello, I am Rosie. I am a traditional Catholic wife and mother to 4 children. They are 7, 5, 3, and 1. As you can probably tell by the background, we are also a homeschooling family, which means that other than my once a week drop off, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't, I have my 4 children with me 24/7. My husband works long and hard hours, so a lot of the time it is me at home with the kids doing what I love and what I prayed so long for. And we're just going to jump right into the emotion of this here, because this is the season of life that I longed for and prayed for and dreamed of for so many years. And now that it's here, especially with homeschooling, that is just something that I envisioned for so long. And, there's been point in times during my motherhood where I've had to be working full-time, overtime, crazy hours outside the home. And I longed and prayed to be home again, and just told God if he could just bless us so that I could be home again, I would give it my all. I would just be the best wife and mother possible. And so here we are. Many of you, if you're watching this, you're right alongside with me in this season. Here we are in this season that we longed for and prayed for and dreamed of. And yet it feels so hard most of the time, doesn't it? And so often that difficulty can cloud over the joy that can and should be had in this season. And sometimes we come across resources that are from moms who are now their kids are grown and gone. They're almost empty nesters, or maybe they're grandmas now. And some of those words of wisdom can be beautiful to listen to. But I have found, what, Nolan? Just keeping it real here with the interruptions. What I have found, this is kind of a case in point, what I have found is that it is more helpful and more encouraging, and usually more actual relevant, useful information when I can glean some wisdom from someone who is literally in the same season. There's some podcasts that I love listening to, or YouTube channels that I enjoy watching that are in the same season. And I just find that to be so useful, because yes, our mothers have gone through it, our grandmothers have gone through it. When we listen to, generations that have come before us giving us wisdom and tips, it is very helpful. I'm not saying to discount those whatsoever, but there are some aspects of our day and age that we're living in with technology and social media and the news of the world and the moral corruption, all these things that kind of just make someone in your same exact walk of life more relatable. Okay, I'm not going to beat a dead horse there. I think you understand what I'm getting at. But to come full circle with what I was originally saying about these being the years that we dreamed of and longed for, and now they're here, looking at me with my 4 kids. My oldest is just she hasn't quite crossed over to that age of wow, she's my big helper. There are, of course, things she can do. She can run and grab a diaper. She can't quite change them yet because my baby is wildly squirmy. She's at that taming a wild alligator phase of changing diapers. So my 7-year-old can't quite do that. It's even hard for me to change the 1-year-old's diaper. So she's at an age where she's not quite oh, wow, she's able to help in all these ways. And I see that in other families, and I'm that's going to be so nice to get to that point. But then I have to remind myself, I'm going to miss this point. I'm going to miss this season so bad. I don't want to wish my 7-year-old to grow up any faster than she is already growing up. Like, it's bizarre to me that she is 7.5 years old. Bizarre. And I have to like stop myself in my tracks when I look at these other families who have these big older helpers, you know, holding the baby. And I'm like, oh, life's going to be so much easier when it gets to that point. But then it pains me to think about my 7-year-old being 13 years old, 14, 15 years old. And so what I have found, having recently, you know, had our fourth a year ago, I guess not so recently, but when we had our fourth, I feel like that has been the biggest, like, being put through the ringer of parenthood, and we're just like still in it. My toddler is not trustworthy or safe with my 1-year-old, and he hasn't been since day one. So it's just like constant surveillance, constantly needing to be fully hands-on watching them. We are in a tiny home, not, you know, we don't have nearly as many bedrooms as we have people. And so the bed sharing and the room sharing and the bedtime situation it's rough. It's so intense. There's just a lot of daily trials, and I'm not here to say like we have it so hard, because we are so blessed with like good health, a roof over our head, warm, you know, a warm house, food to eat, and all the things, beautiful backyard. There are so many blessings, but it isn't to say that it's not also valid to be like, hey, this is also just a really hard season, and that's okay. So this whole like 3-day workshop is basically just about emphasizing that when we're in a hard season, we don't need to just take on this mindset of like, hey, just grin and bear it, survival mode till you get through it. I don't want to do that. I want to enjoy it. And I want to take an approach of, hey, maybe this difficulty can't necessarily be fixed, but what can we do to make it as manageable as possible or as peaceful as possible? And I'm really, really honing in on the word peace instead of like joy or perfection, because peace feels attainable. Joy maybe isn't always going to be attainable. Maybe it is not joyful to sit up all night catching puke from various children and cleaning up. Yeah, like that's not joyful, but it can be peaceful. It can. Because if we find our strength through Christ, that is where we can have peace in knowing that we are doing his will. And I repeat those words, well done, my good and faithful servant. And it isn't just a scripture that we want to envision walking into the pearly gates at the end of our time here on this earth. It's also something that I constantly repeat to myself at the end of each night, through the end of any hard moment, like the end of battling a baby for nap time, and then you finally get them down. And, you know, you might crave those words of affirmation. Maybe our go-to is to stick it on social media and be like, I spent 2 hours getting this baby to sleep finally. And then everyone's like, oh, the struggle is real. And you just feel like so validated by others. Well, what if we sought that validation and those words of affirmation from Christ? Which is why I'm huge on pulling away from social media, because I think it essentially replaces our relationship with God, like very directly. If you think about waking up and going on social media versus waking up and reading your Bible or reading your spiritual reading. So it's not just an analogy that social media replaces our relationship with Christ. It's not an exaggeration. I think it's very literal, and we're going to get a little bit more into that. But looking at ways that we can find peace during a busy season, there's aspects of motherhood and family life and homemaking, homeschooling that we can control. And then there's aspects that we can't. And we can choose to just feel woe is me and like there's nothing I can do in this season. This is just tough and it's going to be awful. Or we can choose to say, you know what? There are some ways that I can put my best foot forward and make a better effort to make this season more manageable. Maybe it's not going to make it easy, but it can make it a little less difficult. And then there's the aspects that we recognize, like, I can't fix that. I can't change that. I can't control that. Or, you know, I'm trying, but it's just a slow and steady uphill trajectory. Like, it's really taking a long time for this particular thing. For us, I'm looking at our nighttime sleep situation. It's currently awful. It's like 3+ hours to get everyone to sleep each night right now. And that is just something that I'm just in that. That's the reality right now. And I can feel all woe is me victim mindset, or I can just say, hey, I'm doing my best, and eventually this will not be this way, but right now it is. And I don't always have to feel joyful that I'm pacing the room with the baby and settling the toddler for the 17th time within an hour. I don't always have to find joy in that, because that's just ridiculous. It's really hard. It's not joyful to be exhausted and wanting to just sit on the couch for the night and having no choice but to deal with 3 hours of getting kids back to bed. But it can be peaceful. It can be like, this is my calling from God right now. And where do we find that peace? How the heck do we muster up that feeling amidst the exhaustion and the chaos and the mess and the overwhelm and the overstimulation and the being touched out and having so many things to do all the time? We can find that peace through Christ.